How's it going, sir? This is Ryan Gass of PTP, just returning a missed phone call.
Yeah, it's Mr. Man.
Hey, how are you?
All right, man, I found out a whole bunch of stuff, man. Apparently, what the state police is doing is they're going back and disqualifying people for expunged charges because the ATF is telling them, NICS or ATF or the FBI is telling them that expunged charges for certain offenses like second-degree assault or possession with the intent to distribute is not true expungements. I kid you not, man. So even if I do apply, even if this is expunged and I go through CJIS and all of that, some kind of way the state police is still seeing it. But I think the way they're seeing it is when you submit your expungement compliances,
Yeah.
they use that, and then they say that the FBI is telling them to deny people. And there's 2 cases. I got them written down here, and I'm trying to get a hold of them. So I returned an attorney.
Okay.
Yeah, and hold on, I'm gonna read them to you. One of them is Menier versus the state police, and Milanowski versus the state police. And the Milanowski case was appealed by the state police, and they won again. It just came out like yesterday. I was speaking to the lady from the lawyer's office. So basically what they're using is out of state, like another state's expungement rules as an argument to deny our expungement rules here. So basically they just saying that expungement don't mean expungement.
Did you ever, refresh my memory, did you have, I know you got him expunged, did you ever have your rights restored as well by the governor?
No, that's a pardon.
Or pardon?
That's all. Yeah, a pardon is a completely separate thing. So what I was told by the law clerk in the office is that what they're doing is if I haven't had, I got a bunch of stuff that still is going to need expungement, which I know I'm entitled to. So what instead of me filing for the expungement, what they'll do is file for the expungement for me and get in front of the judge and turn it into a PPJ and then expunge it later. You kind of understand what I'm saying?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, like instead of it being guilty and I get the expungement, they still going to see it. So what they do is they take that same charge and turn it. The judge can re-sentence you to a probation before judgment and not guilty and expunge it. So it changes the way the disposition shows. You kind of understand what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what,
I maybe I misused my words. I didn't maybe mean your rights restored by the government, but have you petitioned to have your rights restored in general?
No, I didn't file for a pardon because I wasn't through the waiting periods. I still had that waiting period to wait. So I'm at the waiting period now.
Yeah.
You kind of understand? I already had stuff expunged already.
Right.
So when the law changed just recently, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, that put me in a position to get the rest of it off. So the lawyer said, he wants to file for the expungements.
Okay.
So I got 2 choices. Either get it a pardon or go back to court, and what they can do is, like I said, some kind of way to get the judge to change the way it is. They'll change it into a PPJ and then dismiss it that way. You kind of understand? Because in Maryland, you can get a PPJ expunged as long as it's 3 years after the case is closed. So what they'll do is get it reiterated as a probation before judgment for the same offense, and then bring me right back in there and say, I'm dismissing this. So the disposition goes down as not guilty, because in Maryland, a probation before judgment is not a conviction. It's a civil matter.
Okay.
You got me? So
Yeah.
I'm learning, like this whole process is a learning process, and lawyers not going to tell you stuff. So since I've talked to you, I've been digging and prying. I'm on Maryland Shooters. I don't know if you're on that form.
Yeah, yes,
And
sir.
yeah, so you'll see some of my comments on there if you go on there and look at them. I'm VR6 Jetter. That's my handle name. And I got to talking to one guy, and he explained to me that it was a case that was heard at the Office of Administrative Hearings on appeal, because the guy had a second-degree assault that was 35 years ago, and he went in to purchase a firearm, and Nix pretty much denied it, saying and told he's to be disqualified. So you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So they getting ready to start some bullshit.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yep. That's come from the top down.
Yeah, it's the bullshit. So the state police, I believe, the way it sounds, they caught in between it, because they were at one time, I believe, granting, handgun permits if people had expunged records. But some kind of way, these records are still floating around out there.
Yeah.
They're still floating around, and they pop up somewhere. And then when Nix or Nix is the FBI, when they see it, they like, that's a disqualifying offense. So it's drugs. From what I was told, a couple people had weed pipes, smoking a little weed or whatever, and got caught with a pipe with residue in it, or a crack pipe or whatever, for simple possession. They straight denied them. They're straight trying to revoke their licenses.
I've heard of at least 2 people, at least, in the past week who have gotten their permits, which they got them pulled after the fact because of stuff like this. And just in the past week.
I'm telling you some real good stuff, man.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna text you the lawyer's information.
Okay.
But you need to call them. They charge a retainer fee, but it's worth it. But they're trying to get something big put together to defend people's rights. If expungement means total destruction or annihilation of any kind of record, it's like it never happened.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So I'm trying to get those 2 cases that I just said to you from the Office of Administrative Hearings. They will be redacted, but from what I was told, it's the argument that they use, and the state police is appealed one of them twice. So the guy got his, he had the second-degree assault. He went to the first hearing. They granted it, but the state police appealed it again, and they lost again. Because Maryland's expungement law is broader. So what they're using is a case called Crack something, Wyoming, and what it is, it's in another state. That state expungement laws in Wyoming is not the same as the expungement laws in Maryland. So each state have different expungement laws. So if you go to Jersey, their expungement might be just sealing. But expungement here in Maryland is very strong. It's broad. So it's pretty much broader than the FBI, because the FBI does not have an expungement. You can't expunge anything from them unless you get a pardon from the president.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? So with that being said, it's a tough battle. So the FBI is telling the state police to deny people. And then when they go back to get their licenses renewed, or they coming up for it, they're going and trying to purchase guns, and this stuff pops up, and they put a freeze on them.
Yep.
And then they contact the state police and say, nah, he can't buy nothing. I seen like 4 people down, I don't know if you're familiar with the place.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I got a friend. Yeah, I go in there once in a while and just walk around looking at stuff, and the guy was in there. He was furious. He had to come back in there to get his refund back because Nix denied him. They straight denied him, and he had the same problem. He said, I don't understand. It's been 30 years. He said, they want me to go back in court and do just what I said. You got to go back to court, get it turned into a PPJ. But the problem with that is, if it's been 30 years, in Maryland, after 3 years under the expungement law, it is destroyed. So there's no record of it. You kind of understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
After 3 years, they destroy that stuff, man. It's out of, it's history. So that's where I'm at. So instead of me filing for the expungements to the rest of the stuff, I will just let the lawyers file for it, because it's 2 ways around it. Either I get a full pardon to find a relief that way, or go back in front of a judge and have her change the charge into a probation for judgment of the eligible expungible offense, and then dismiss it that way, because that way, if it's dismissed, it ain't like it never happened. You kind of understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, if you want me asking, what law firm is that you're dealing with?
It's in Towson. It's called, let me look through the forms. And they wouldn't give me the cases. They wouldn't give me, I think it's yep, here it is. Catherine, wait a minute. Cohen and Harris.
Okay. Not familiar.
I think it's Cohen. Huh?
I said I'm not familiar, but I'm sure they'll probably do fine.
Wait a minute. Let me make sure it's the same, because if it's in Towson, yes, it's Catherine. It's Cohen and Harris, Katie and Cohen. The number is call her at 443-915-0091.
Okay.
And let her know that Mr. Coleman that she spoke to referred, because it's gonna build momentum. So they was the ones that handled the second administrative case, and I think the fee for consultation is like $350. But in a situation where someone has already obtained that license, is a different situation from mine, because I haven't obtained my license yet. You understand? So what I'm trying to do is alleviate all of this shit by going back to court and getting the PPJs put in place, and then go back in front of a judge at a later date, maybe a month later, and get it dismissed, because that's how PPJs work. You know, PPJs is not a conviction.
Right.
Right. So after 3 years or completion of the probation, you can have it set aside. It's like it never happened. So that's what they're doing. But in cases where people may have situations where the state police is revoking their rights, they can handle the case at the Office of Administrative Hearings. So, you know, people who already have their licenses can go that way and say, nah, I'm going to appeal this. And the argument, they already know the argument, because they're the ones that's representing other people. So it's Cohen and Harris, LLC, and you can email her, the law clerk there, Katie at cohenandharris.com, and I gave you the number.
All right.
So if you have any problems, they are the people. Because the guy just answered me back on Maryland shooters, and he was like, that's what I'm talking about. They the ones that's handling everything. And it's another law firm in I think Montgomery County somewhere, and they're doing the same thing. So they all working together. But these people out here are getting ready to file in the federal court, because I mean, the way I see it, if the charges originate from Maryland, and Maryland retains the sole repository, so we maintain our own records here, and the FBI don't. So whatever Maryland says take off, if it's expunged, it's expunged. The feds shouldn't be doing that, man. Okay. I don't know why they're doing it, huh?
Yeah, they keep a lot of their own records. They don't really tell us this and stuff, but they keep a lot of their own records like that, including but not limited to also like when the ATF does background checks and stuff for people and approves them to buy firearms. Whether they want to tell us this or not, they actually keep a record of everyone's serial numbers associated with them. So there is a national gun registry. So it's just like this and stuff, where they're not supposed to, but they do it anyway.
Well, I think that's what's happening. So when you go to purchase a firearm, that opens up them to see it.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? So, I mean, just like what you just said, I'm learning. Like, this whole thing is a sham.
Yep.
They do not want people having guns.
Exactly. And
I'm going to tell you, I was just in Annapolis lobbying for the expungement bills from the last time I talked to you, which the law passed. The waiting periods are reduced now.
Nice.
But the problem is, those tyrant-ass people in there, man, they are tyrants, man.
Oh, yeah.
They pretty much, now you can't go on property nowhere.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You can't, according to that law, if you go to 7-Eleven, you literally got to ask them.
Yeah, exactly.
if you go on the property, you could be capable of going to jail.
And what I found with that too is that now that the decision is up to the business owner, now the business owners, the insurance companies for these businesses, they're saying now that you have a choice, you have to choose no, that they can't carry firearms on your property, because if you do allow it and then something happens, you're going to be liable and we're not going to cover you for that. So if you get sued and lose, all that's going to be out of your pocket. So all these businesses who don't honestly care, if anything, some of them even support people carrying, they are feeling they're forced to make themselves a no gun-free zone to protect themselves from civil liability, because there's not that protection there.
Absolutely, man. So it's horrible, man. And then it's just bad, man. It's gonna get shot down, I'm pretty sure. But the problem is,
it's a matter of time. Who's gonna become a criminal in the meantime?
Yeah, but I mean, it's hurting your business, your livelihood, because then people gonna say, what's the point of me having to get a firearms permit if I can't go nowhere?
Yeah, no, and I get that too, but like honestly, like myself, I put the liberties over my business every day. Like if I had a say in the matter, if I had a choice, there wouldn't be any training requirements. Don't get me wrong, training's great and all that, but I don't think you should have to have training in order to exercise your right. A right doesn't require training. Speaking to you right now, my freedom of speech, it doesn't need training. So why does my firearm, why is my right to use a firearm to defend my family, why am I required to spend all this money to get training? And don't get me started on the whole, the fingerprints and the photographs, and now the application fee. They showed exactly what they're thinking. It's not about safety. It's about controlling the people and limiting when they can carry firearms, and then making it more expensive. If it was about safety, what is raising the application fee for the Maryland handgun permit or the Maryland HQL? What does raising the fee do to make Maryland safer? It doesn't. It just makes gun owners less encouraged to be able to exercise that right. It's so ignorant. Right. I hate this shit.
Yeah, man. And I'm pretty sure you're gonna run into some more people, because apparently, and this is hearsay, the state police, from what the guy that I was telling you that I seen in Small Arms, he said they can go after over 20,000 people. Oh yeah,
I've heard that too. I mean, there's a lot of things that I've heard too that you're reconfirming what I've already been told and stuff, and I'm doing the same thing for you. I'm reconfirming it because I've heard it too.
Yeah, and that's not good, man. Like basically what they're saying is, Maryland law. So it was two bills so the guy from MSI was in there, and it was a delegate, and it was two bills, I think, HB 764, and then it was like HB 823. They were trying to make sure that expungement means expungement.
Right.
In Maryland. So really, Maryland is the license, they the ones that issue the licenses, and they should have a right to issue a license. So what it is, it's the NICS that's getting involved. Because in some states it doesn't use NICS, or is it everybody?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you on that. I don't want to misspeak and stuff. I don't know.
You know how you got some states that don't require. So I believe it's some states that, if I'm thinking right, I could be wrong, that will issue licenses without the background check or the fingerprint or something. So it's through NICS. That's new. So that's how the feds is getting involved. Even if it don't show up on, like, even if I go right now and file and it's clear on the record, what's happening is it's popping up when I guess you go in to buy guns, and they keep running it some kind of way. Like you said, they have a separate database that they're pulling from, and they say, well, this guy had a second-degree assault or a drug charge, deny him. Right. And then you go to them, and it's a big-ass fucking problem.
Yeah.
And that's worse. So that's why I'm trying to deal with it by getting a lawyer to make it all PPJs.
Yeah.
The rest of that shit, make it all a PPJ, bring me back in front of the judge, and when the judge dismisses it, because it's been way past 3 years, it doesn't show, because it's a probation before judgment. That means it hasn't had a disposition. I was never guilty. I was just given the opportunity to be on probation.
Yeah.
And the prize is you complete the probation, and we remove it without it ever being shown to anybody.
My only thing with that is, because based on what we've said so far, my thing with that is the FBI with their separate record will say, yeah, he's got a PBJ now for that charge, but he had a conviction before, so it doesn't matter what you did. He's still disapproved. I can see them trying to do that.
Well, they can try what they want, but in Maryland, a probation before judgment in Maryland is not a conviction.
Right.
You get it? So it's just like having a non-process or stat docket or acquittal. That's the end result. So they can't say, well, you was ever guilty of anything. The problem is the people that were guilty of something at one point and then getting it expunged later because the laws changed. That's what the problem is. So the way I'm explaining it to you, a probation before judgment, that's for like a first-time offender. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the case is called Wyoming versus Crank. That's the case that they're using. And they're telling the state police to use that in the argument, but the state police are now losing in these administrative hearings because you can appeal that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I haven't got to that point yet. So that's why I'm glad I'm finding all this out now, because she said, don't put in for the expungements. Let us handle them. Or I go to the governor and get a full pardon. You have to kind of get a lawyer, have them draw up the paperwork, go to the governor, because you don't really have a record according to Maryland. And 90% of the time, they'll sign off on it, I'm sure.
Right.
If it's in a pardon. And then that restores your rights. And then the ATF can't deny you because the governor's saying, I want to restore these gun rights.
Right.
So stay in the loop, man, and keep, because you're going to probably get some more people. You might, I don't know when your classes are, and you're going to get people going around, and you need to circulate that information to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, on that note and stuff, I know we talked about this before. You're cool with me posting this on YouTube, right?
Yeah, you fine.
All right, cool. And then also, I'll blur out obviously most of the different stuff. But do you want me? It's up to you. Do you want me to leave your username for Maryland shooters in there?
Yeah. My name under Maryland shooters is VR6 Jetterboy.
All right, cool. And you're cool with me leaving that in there in the video?
Yes, but it's a lot of other guys in there, and they real ain't on that bitch because they don't want people. They wouldn't help me. They was like, you new here, you know what I mean? But once I got to talking to them, they referred me to the attorney. I called them, and the attorney, the law clerk there, kind of like gave me some verbalness. But it's a business. They have to make money, so they want you to. They can explain everything in detail once you retain them.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the best way to go, because people ain't gonna mind spending that couple $100 and retain, because they represent not just would be me, but a lot of other people is going to them. Yep. So the more people they have, the better it is. If you run into anybody with that exact problem.
So are they? Because like I said, I'm always learning stuff. Are they doing a class action lawsuit?
Well, again, 2 cases. One of them is Manowski, and the other one is Manier versus the state police. They handled those 2 cases. I don't know the details of those cases because they won't give them to me. But you got to go to them, and they will explain all of that. You understand? Right. That's where the retainers come in. And then people who already got their permits and their permits are being revoked and denied, they handle that a different way. They probably can appeal that. Because really it's the state police revoking the license. It ain't the feds, it's the state police. Right. So they have a certain amount of time. Some people, I guess, maybe they're making them wait until renewal or whatever. Are they taking the licenses from them, or are they waiting for them to renew them? or they've straight revoking them.
The people that I heard, they have, you know, only had their permit for, let's say, a couple of months, maybe a year. So they still got plenty of time left on it. And the state police have gone in and revoked their permits.
Well, that's when you have a right to appeal that.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So that's what these lawyers come into play, you know, and then the more people they have, because from what the law clerk said to me, she said that they get ready to go in federal court. Her name is Katie. That the number to 443-915-0090.
Yeah.
Call that number direct.
Okay.
You know, she's not gonna give you a whole bunch of information based off of what they're doing, because you know that's how they do their business, which is understandable. But the more people that's gonna go to them, which is gonna be a rack of people here in Maryland, because I'm telling you, man, they could probably go back over probably 5,000-10,000 people. Because I'm pretty sure some people had some old stuff that they had expunged years and years ago, and it might be just a one-off offense.
Right.
You know? And it might have just been that one time, and now they're getting their rights stripped from them. So they want to get in the fight, because trying to fight it by yourself it's not going to do good. So it might be a class action lawsuit, or I don't know.
Right.
But I'm going up there this week to retain them regardless.
Okay. Yeah, if you get a chance to, next time you talk to them, I'll give them a phone call too. But next time you talk to them, put in a word for us and stuff, and see if they're willing to talk on record as much as they can. Because I said, like you said, they can only tell us so much because it's an ongoing case. But if they want to go on record and talk about what's going on and how they can help people that are being affected by this, and on a YouTube video, let them know that I'd love to try to give them a spot to reach more people.
Yeah, well, the lady Katie, that's her number, the 443. Give her a call.
Okay.
And and then ask her if she wants to do that, and she can explain. She's the law clerk in there, so she does all of. I didn't even speak to the lawyer. She put me down with everything. So I'm pretty sure they appreciate the business and they want more people, but they're going to want to retain a fee to release the information. So I don't know how that may work, but she's Catherine M. Martin, that's her name, and she's the paralegal. So give her a call. That number is direct to her cell phone. Okay. And I would pass it along to whoever it was. What was it? One of your clients or something?
Right. Yep.
Yeah, so pass it on to him. Have you heard anything else besides all of the bad news?
No, I need to probably check in with those two and stuff and see how everything's going with them. I know the one guy, he should have his Maryland permit in his hand by now if all went well. And then the other guy, he's just in the process of getting his rights restored. So I got to probably check back in with him. I don't think I've heard from him in the last probably 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks.
Yeah, it ain't hitting people right away, but once they start purchasing a bunch of guns and going, they got 30 and 40 guns and 10 or 15 guns and just keep going in there, eventually it's going to pop up. And when it does, or either when they renew, that's when it's going to pop up.
Right,
but,
right.
It basically, it's like a wait and see type of thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, hopefully what I gave you, that's the reason why I called you, is going to help some people. Because how can I say this? The battle just started.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, honestly, the battle's been going on for a while, and so this is just another shift in their strategy with the federal government and/or Maryland State Police. They've been already doing this, making our life harder and stuff. But now they don't have good and substantial to hang over our head, at least currently. So they're, hey, what's another way we can limit these people from carrying guns? And so. Yeah, it's just another way to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're trying to screw, man. So they can't get you for issuing the gun to you, but what they do is control where you go. So if they can control every place that you go, then you really can't go nowhere indirectly, which is still infringement, no matter how you look at it.
Exactly.
But at the end of the day, I still believe that the 2A rights, because it's not a second-class right. It's a first-class right.
Exactly.
And it's going to prevail because it's a constitutional right.
Yep.
And you should have the freedom to go wherever you want to go at and protect yourself. That is your God-given right.
Yes, sir.
You know, at the end of the day, I sum it up in them small words, and they can't beat that. So I guess the only thing next for them to do is get the Supreme Court and then abolish it altogether.
Yep. Yeah, hopefully it
That'd be
doesn't
the
take
only
too
way.
long. Yeah, hopefully it doesn't take too long like it did for the good and substantial. It took us decades for the Supreme Court to finally, throw that out. So hopefully it doesn't take us too long to get this bullshit thrown out too.
Yes. And I forgot to add, New York is using that Wyoming versus Crank, or Wyoming Crank case. That's, New York is doing the same thing that Maryland is doing right now. I mean, the feds. It's the same exact thing. The 9 people with expunged records or records that's been dismissed, or whatever the case may be. So,
right.
Let me know. You can put it up there, and they can message me if they want. I'll just forward them the same, information I gave you, and have them call up there.
Cool. Sounds good, man. I appreciate you.
All right. Stuff, man.
Yes, sir. I'll check in with you and stuff if I hear anything else and anything different. Definitely let me know if there's any updates on your end.
I'll give you a call.
Cool, man. Appreciate you.
All right. See you.
Yes, sir. Bye.
Yep.